Hey gang, welcome back to Embrace the Question. Steve here. It's going to be another exciting episode of Bible study with me, and yes, exciting and fascinating if you're a Bible nerd like I am. Welcome. If this is your first time here, please subscribe and get on the feed. You will eventually find something that's really going to capture your imagination, even if you're not going through Genesis right now, which we are. It is Genesis chapter 4. And you may know exactly what that represents. This is Cain and Abel. The first really bad stuff going down. This isn't just eating fruit here, folks. This is killing each other. So we've arrived. We have no idea when this took place after the creation of man. We don't know how many years elapsed, how old Cain or Abel were. So let's just see what we can figure out from the scriptures. Let's go. Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. I am reading from the King James. Pardon. Let's go over to, it's not like that wasn't easy enough to understand, but let's stay consistent here. The English Standard Version, and we'll go back to the King James for Strong's numbers, okay? I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of the sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. And in the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. And Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock, and of their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell, or his countenance fell. All right, let's take the first 5 and just analyze a little bit. I think it's probably worth talking about that Adam was formed out of the dust. Eve was taken from Adam. She was derived from Adam. Okay? Cain was produced. He was the first fruit, if you will, of the command, be fruitful and multiply. The first male, at least, and the first one mentioned. So he was the first produced that we know of. That's interesting to me. I've never really spent a lot of time dwelling on that, but just think, the first one ever born by natural means. Okay. And again, she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of the sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. Let's talk about the names. Let's switch over here. King James with the Strong's number. And we can take a look at Cain here, and we will see Cain, the same as this guy, which is not really blowing up. That's 7013 is the same as, okay? So in the sense of fixity, which I'm not really sure what that is, a lance, a spear, or as striking fast. So the real definition here is to strike. To strike. Now, why would she name him to strike? It is kind of a foreshadowing of what he does to his brother. He strikes down his brother. And a lot of people might think, well, that's the whole thing. Maybe he was named later in life. Maybe he was named, after he had a propensity for such behavior. I don't think so. And the reason I say that is because of Genesis chapter 3, when the woman and when both Adam and Eve fell, and they had their face-to-face with the Father tells the snake that he's cursed, and that the seed of the woman will be at enmity with the seed of the snake, and that his the woman's seed will crush the head of the snake, or to strike the snake. I think that what is happening here is Eve is hoping that this is the Redeemer. She is hoping that this is the chosen one, the one that's going to set everything right, fulfill the prophecy. So this is the one that's going to strike down the snake. That's what I believe. Let's keep going. That's interesting to me. Let's go with Abel. What does Abel mean? So we can take a look here. Bear his brother Abel, or Abel, you should see. Abel, the son of Adam, the same as emptiness or vanity. Okay, that's a thinker for me, because why would she name Abel emptiness? It's of very great importance here that the very language they're using is indicating that these are twins. Cain being the firstborn, Abel being the second. And the reasoning behind that is this is a clue that I gathered from the commentaries. The Hebrew constructs this is exactly how they would say twins, or how they would announce twins. First one, then the other. Perhaps it's inconclusive, but what if they're twins? Well, the first one encapsulated all of Eve's hopes, so the second one, Abel, would have been a bit of a downer or a disappointment. Maybe she just didn't know what to do with him. He was just vanity, or he is an emptiness. Or the other side of that possibly is that she's pregnant. If she's pregnant with twins, she's a big woman. I'm the father of twins. I know how a pregnancy with multiples goes. It's a little bit bigger deal than a single on your body, right? And probably Eve was a large woman during her pregnancy. So what? Well, when she finally delivers Abel, then she's empty. She feels hollow. She feels postpartum depression, maybe. Let's name him vanity or emptiness. I'm speculating here, but I think that's really, really interesting to bring out about the names. Okay, so let's go a little further. Let's take a look at verse 3 there. Well, it says in verse 2 that Abel was a keeper of the sheep, and Cain a worker of the ground. So Abel is, if you will, a shepherd, and he's, I think, a picture of Christ. We might not see the whole picture yet, so let's just drive up a stake right there and think, okay, let's just pay attention and see if Abel produces any Christ-like qualities, or anything happens to him like happened to Jesus. And Cain, a worker of the ground. Now, you probably are well aware that ground in Hebrew is Adamah. Adamah is ground, a worker of the ground. A worker of, or in the King James, a tiller of the ground, someone who breaks the ground, someone who breaks up Adamah, or breaks up humanity. That sounds like Cain. Someone who, and we're going to find out that that's truer in the literal sense than is being indicated right here, right? Okay. Hope you're following my rattledness here. Rattledness. Here's a new word. Okay. So verse 3, in the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of fruit of the ground, and Abel brought of the firstborn of his flock. So you could ask, where do they bring these sacrifices? Where did this happen? I mentioned In one of the sessions, one of the takes of a scholar that I listen to a lot is that they always met at the mercy seat. The Ark of the Covenant was available in the realm of Eden, in the realm of the garden. The mercy seat, the Ark of the Covenant, the heavenly one, because the earthly one had not been made yet, but Adam had access to it. If that's true, that would have been a prime place to bring sacrifices. I should also point out that Eden, one of the guys that listens and is a close friend of mine, he said, one thing that you missed, Steve, is that Eden is bigger than the garden. Eden was planted, or the garden was planted in Eden. So that delineation is going to become important, because once they're out of the garden, then they can still be around and in Eden, apparently. Let's see if that makes any sense as we go. Okay, so he's bringing fruit of the ground. Cain is bringing fruit of the ground. And Abel brought of the firstborn of his flock and of the fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering. Why? But for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was angry and his face fell. There's a lot of discussion about this. And it seems, on the very surface, seems pretty simple. If you're talking about bringing an offering, then there needs to be a sacrifice. A real sacrifice. And it's different to sacrifice a living being than it is to sacrifice, say, an apple or an orange or a tomato or whatever Cain brought. He brought what he grew. And while in the end, remember who's writing this. Moses is writing this, and he doesn't spare a lot of energy softening the blow to Cain here. It's like Cain just brought vegetables. Well, remember, Moses lived through the imposition of the law. Therefore, he saw the law permit not only the sacrifice of bulls, goats, lambs, pigeons, he also saw for different types of offerings, non-living offerings, like bread, oil, grain offerings. So it's not like really Cain was that far off, except apparently he was, because this was not like a thank offering. This was more of a sin offering. This gets deep. And I've tapped into enough to know how really deep it is. So let's take that amount of information and run with it. Let's see if we can just get a little more resolution here. The Lord said to Cain, "Why are you so angry? Why is your face fallen?" God is good with rhetorical questions, isn't he? He already knew what Cain's problem was. He already knew what Cain was dealing with in his life, what kind of issues he had. He knew Cain was dealing with anger issues, with self-esteem issues, a lot of the same things that we deal with today. So he just asks him, "Why are you angry? And why is your face fallen? If you do well, won't you be accepted? And if you don't do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it." I'd really like to switch to the King James here. Verse 7. If you doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if you doest not well, sin lies at the door, and unto thee his desire, for unto thee shall be his desire. The shall be is not really there. And thou shalt rule over him. Thou shalt rule over who? Sin. Okay. And Cain talked with his brother. Flipping back. And Cain spoke with Abel his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Probably with a farm implement. Cain probably literally tilled Abel, because that is what his name means, to strike. And he is a tiller of the soil of Adamah, of which Abel is one. Okay? Then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? To which the answer truly is, yes, you are. But he didn't get that. And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. Okay, let's stop right there. Verse 10. This is, the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Sorry, this keeps flipping around on me. Verse 6. Why are you angry, and why is your face fallen? There's the rhetorical question. If you do well, will you not be accepted? Shall thou not be accepted? Is literally, is there not a lifting up? If you do well, then shouldn't there be a lifting up? Steve, that doesn't make any sense. What did Jesus say? Unless I be lifted up. What was lifted up? When Jesus was lifted up, what was lifted up? Sin. He became sin for us, right? So sin is always what is lifted up. What was the problem? If we want to fast forward a little bit into Exodus, the book of Exodus. Remember, in the wilderness, they were grumbling against the Lord, and all of a sudden there's this outbreak of snakes, and the snakes were biting everyone. You'll recall the Chosen episode, right? Snakes are biting everyone. People are dying. They're getting sick. They're dying. What did Moses have to lift up? The serpent. You always have to lift up the problem. In their case, the problem was the serpent. Lift that up. In our case, the problem is sin. So Jesus became sin for us and was lifted up so that it's visible, so that it's confessed. And that's what the Lord is saying here in a roundabout way. If you're doing well, isn't there a lifting up? And if you don't do well, sin is crouching at the door, or literally in your face. It is not lifted up. It is right there. It is, it's a problem. You can't get around it. It's always in your face. And its desire is contrary to what you were built for and what you actually desire to do. You have to rule over that. Now, is that not a full verse? You have to rule over that desire. That's amazing. How do we rule over our desires? We confess our sins one to another. What is that? It's lifting them up. It's lifting them up. I think that is amazing because we're seeing so much instruction here, way back in Genesis chapter 4. So Cain spoke to Abel his brother, and when they're in the field, I'm guessing Cain rose up against his brother with a mattock, or with an axe, or with a hoe, or with some implement, and killed him. So instead of tilling the ground, he killed his brother with the implement. Okay. And then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? Again, a rhetorical question. God already knew what was happening. He always does. Cain said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? The answer is yes. He didn't know that, but we learn that as we go. We are our brother's keepers. part of our job, part of our commission. And the Lord said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground." I used to watch Perry Stone a lot, and he's a pretty brilliant guy. And he said that this word that it's actually used here for blood is plural, bloods. The bloods, your brother's bloods is crying to me. Why? Because when you kill somebody, then you've killed every one of their progeny. You've killed everyone that they would ever beget. Every child that they would have had, guess what? You've just killed them too. So your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. We can go over and look at that. King James, verse 10. And blood is dam. And it says, see if you can see this. That which when shed causes death of man or animal. By analogy, the juice of the grape. We get this picture really early on. Figuratively, though, especially in the plural, blood shed. That is, drops of blood. So that's all we're getting from the actual word. Okay, going back. Let's go 5. Let's go 5 more because we're kind of in a story in itself here. And now God is pronouncing judgment upon Cain here. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer in the earth. Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." Then the Lord said to him, Not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Okay. So, because you've killed your brother in the ground, which you were supposed to just be tilling, the ground has opened up to cover what you've done. Now the ground is cursed from you. It will not bear to you its strength. Verse 12. So you're going to be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Farming isn't going to be your gig anymore. And Cain expects, it's hard to know what he expected. But he doesn't obviously like this. He's being forced from Eden to wander the earth. Who else does that? When Lucifer or Satan was asked, what are you doing? Well, I've been wandering the earth, searching to and fro, seeking who he could devour. This is similar to that, and it's very much the same spirit at work. You've driven me today from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. This is Cain's thought. This is what he thinks entails his punishment. From your face I will be hidden. I'm going to be a fugitive and a wanderer, and if somebody finds me, they're going to kill me. Now, God, Father, says not so. I'm going to put a mark on you so that nobody kills you. But what else is he saying not so to? From your face I shall be hidden. There's a lot of people, Christians even, who claim that the face of God is something that They cannot approach. That is a lie starting from right here. God never hid his face from man. Not as a whole. There are probably people where he turned away from, and we know that's true in Scripture, after many, many, many tries, many, many opportunities. And then he has to turn his back, probably because of a covenant that they were in. But here, not so. Cain is saying, your face is going to be hidden from me. And God is saying, not so. Not so. Now, if my face is hidden from you, Cain, it's because you stopped looking for it, not because I am going to hide it from you. God is more merciful than we give him credit for. But this is really interesting here. Not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. We're going to revisit that because it's going to reappear here in the next chapter or two. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Now, what's the mark they put on Cain? Well, a lot of people believe that the mark was, I'll write it here. Let's see if that comes up. Tav, an ancient Tav. It looks a lot like an X. The truth is that Tav does represent a bit of protection, but that mark, which is an X, can also be inverted, stood upright, and what does it look like? It looks like a cross. So there are those who believe that Moses knew exactly what this was, because when they were instructed to place the blood of the lamb on the lintels of the doorposts, then what they would have had would look like this. One for the sides, or two for the sides, the right and left sides of the door, and one for the top of the door, the lintel. What is that? That looks like the mountain that Jesus was crucified on. 3 crosses, Jesus being the top center. So again, I believe what we have here is accurate. I think probably the mark that was placed on Cain was a tav, and it represents the last word, maybe. The last word, the tav is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it's really the end of the cycle. What you have is when Jesus says, I am the Aleph and the Tav, I'm the beginning of the cycle, and I'm the end of the cycle. Cain had kind of skipped right to the end, but what was the end? I'm still protecting you. I'm still protecting you. That's pretty deep, and it gets deeper. But let's just call that for right now, and we will take up again verse 16 very soon. I will try to have it done on time. I know I missed one, but thank you guys for joining me on this. I appreciate you all. I appreciate every comment. Please leave some. Tell me what you think. Give me an idea of whether or not you've heard any of this before, and by all means, correct me if you see things that I've missed. Okay. But until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Peace out.